Hello everybody, I am Dion Artrell McCullough, better known as kNOWCASH. I was born and raised in Florence, South Carolina, and my grandmother raised me in the church, singing on the choir. I made some bad decisions in my life, money-making decisions that landed me in prison. When I sold drugs, the drugs took me away from my family, from my music career. I lost my freedom, as well as my grandmother and my grandfather. While I was doing this bid, they passed away. And so when I was released back out into society after paying my debt, I lost everything, including the two people that raised me my whole life. So for the first time in my life, I found myself faced with a homeless situation that I didn't really want to face. Shortly after that, I met this man named Brian Braddock, who actually paid Mr. Ron Hall to come and speak at one of his events. And then I met Mr. Ron Hall, and he became my mentor. And from that day to this one, I am now I'm sheltered with Mr. Ron Hall and his wife, Ms. Elizabeth Hall, from the same kind of Different As Me Foundation. And I asked him to be my mentor after he was paid to come and speak at this event in Florence, South Carolina, where I'm from. And he agreed. Well, first he asked me, how can he mentor me if he's from Texas and I'm in Florence, South Carolina? And I told him, you have a cell phone, don't you? He said, well, we can exchange numbers, and we exchanged numbers, and then we kept in touch for about 6 months after that. He flew me out to Chicago to be a part of a documentary about ceasefire and inspiring the youth to put down the guns. And I'm all from that area, man. I was all for it. And so we did that, and shortly after that, he made me an invitation to come to Dallas, Texas, to roommate with him and his wife, because he felt like it would be much more potential and opportunity for me there. And so now I'm here, and we're doing great things on the count of Mr. Ron and the same kind of Different As Me Foundation. And I just want to say thank you all for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, kNOWCASH. Introduction.
I am not kNOWCASH.
He is not kNOWCASH.
So don't be expecting any really great performance up here. But I was asked to introduce kNOWCASH. And as you saw from this introduction, he gave you a pretty good introduction already. But what I want to say about kNOWCASH is that he's a young man who is the most talented young man that I have come across in ages. And I've reacquainted with many of you tonight that I have been friends with now for the last 40 years, being in and around Dallas as an art dealer, and many of you were clients of mine, and is so happy to see you here. I love what you're doing here at SVP. This is an extraordinary organization, and especially for what you're doing with the homeless, which has become my passion for the last 20 years. So I can say with a kind of tongue-in-cheek that many of you are the same kind of different as me. We have a foundation that supports especially emergency needs for the homeless. And back last September, when we had kNOWCASH in Chicago, we became much closer after mentoring him for a few months over the phone. And so I invited him to come to Texas. He wasn't ready to come to Texas. He was part of a rehabilitation center, a shelter where he was being rehabilitated to go back into the workforce after 5 years in prison. And you know, when you get out of prison, he's been out of prison now 5 years. Most people don't want to give a young man who's been in prison for selling drugs a second chance. And he's paid, you know, many of these young men, they pay for their sins, and they want to stay clean and sober if someone would just give them a chance. And he had waited 5 years on the streets singing for his food. But the miraculous thing happened is the New York Times got wind that here was a homeless man in Florence, South Carolina singing for his food. And so they did 2 articles on him. So people made videos. He got 60 million views on YouTube and 192,000 followers on him on YouTube now. So this is a great American success story in the making. And I want to thank Tony, who saw us on TV recently, for calling and inviting kNOWCASH to be a part of this tonight. This is his first paid gig after 5 years out of prison. I'm so proud of this young man. Please welcome to the stage my friend Beyond Artrell McCullough, but known as kNOWCASH, but the K is silent. Come on, kNOWCASH.
Wow, that was such a warm welcome, y'all, and I appreciate the energy in the room. Give yourselves a round of applause. Y'all look so beautiful tonight. I'm not going to do much talking after all of that. I was told to do a little bit of talking, but we're not going to talk much. My name is kNOWCASH, the YouTube sensation. My real name, my mother named me Beyond Artrell McCullough, and I made some bad mistakes in my life, as the video says. Went to prison, got it right. Lost my grandmother and my grandfather, but when I came home, I had no support, and that's why I became homeless. Instead of doing it the old negative way that I used to do things, I decided to turn over a new leaf and try to do the right thing to pave the way for myself. I used my talents and my gifts to start this YouTube channel, and I read this verse when I was in prison. It said, "Your gifts shall open up doors and place you before great men." I didn't know what I was going to do when I came home, but I knew I had a talent, I had a gift from God, and I was going to use it, and I did. And now that gift has placed me before Mr. Ron, to embrace me in his home, to be a roommate, and now I'm in front of a lot of great people like you all. And I just want to say thank y'all for having me, all right? The first song I'm going to do is an original song. I wrote it while I was on my tenure. It's called, I like y'all's slogan, what is it, do good better? Okay, I wrote 2 songs in prison, and they were called Do Something and Be Better. So that's kind of like the same little thing y'all got going. God has a way of working. So we're going to say Do Something for y'all, and then I'm going to get on out y'all way. I need to say if you never do nothing, you will never get nothing. No, you won't. No, you won't. No. If you never do nothing, no, no. You will never get nothing. Reminiscing on when we was children, was young and rebellious, with none of us listened. See, my grandma must knew I was different, cause she made me reach deep in my soul and go get it. She taught me always put respect over riches, made me make my bed, take out trash and do dishes. Whenever I approach a door and others before me, man, I had to run and go get it. She told me we was born sinners, so nobody's perfect, everybody sins. Just look at sin as an error, something wrong that we shouldn't be practicing. And if you're trying to be a winner, can I be a quitter? Cause quitters don't win. Not to be so fair, but to try. And if you don't succeed, well, then try it again. Or find yourself in a situation with someone trying to use you or something. Cause you could be some entrepreneur of a company. Get up off your do-nothing stool, money buddy, and go back to school if nothing. But if you never do nothing, you won't never get nothing. You better get up and do something. Hey, it's okay to fail, so try something. If you really want to have something, there's nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Hey, if you never do nothing, you will never get nothing. You better get up and do something. Hey, yeah, it's okay to fail, so try something. If you really want to have something, there's nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Straight passion is coming my way. I know it cause I've been working all day. The best ideas, they been coming from me. It's kind of crazy that I never caught a break. I came a long way from hustling in the trap. We're moving forward, there ain't no looking back. I'm out to trying to put my city on the map. But to make it out, I had to move away. Start thinking outside of the box. When you get tired of pushing that clock, you better find a way to make it to the top. Or let the job work you like a slave. Boss man won't cut you no slack. But you gotta give up the family's tax. The rich dude, you can't forget about the fact. You can't reach out for a minimum wage. You'll find yourself in a situation with someone trying to use you or something. Cause you can be some entrepreneur of a company. Get up off your do-nothing stool, yeah. get up, do something. Can't spend all your time trying to get high. Get up, do something. How would you make it if you never even tried? Get up, do something. Cause you and I got to do for you and I. Yeah. All right. Thank y'all very much. This time I think we got some slides they want to play, but without further ado, play the record. To dream, to bear the unbearable, to bear with unbearable sorrows, and to run where the brave dare not go. The unrightable wrong, and to love where it chase from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless and no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for the heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. Yeah, that one man, scorned and covered with scars,